Naomi Adeyemi had a rule about crying in restaurants. She would not do it. Not in this one anyway. Not with the white tablecloths and the soft music playing something French and forgettable. Not with the candle between them throwing warm light on Dominic's face. A face she had studied for 3 years the way a person studies a map of somewhere they are trying to get to. She watched his mouth move. He was using words like space and timing and deserve. He said she deserved better. He said it the way people say things they have rehearsed in the shower. She watched him and thought about how strange it was that someone could sit across from you and dismantle 3 years of your life and still hold his fork correctly. When he finished, she said, "Okay, just that." He blinked. He had expected something else. Tears, maybe. Raised voices. Some proof that what they had was real enough to break loudly. She gave him nothing. She folded her napkin once, set it beside her untouched wine glass, picked up her coat, and left. The elevator was empty. She pressed the button for the rooftop bar. December in the city was a serious matter. The cold hit her the moment the doors opened. Not the gentle kind that makes people pull their scarves tighter, but the kind that walks through you like it has somewhere to be. The rooftop was mostly empty. A few couples at the far end. String lights above the bar. The city below, all lit up, going about its business without the slightest awareness that Naomi's life had just quietly folded in half. She sat at the bar and ordered a drink. The bartender, young, tired, kind, set it down in front of her and did not ask how her night was going. She appreciated that more than she could say. She stared at the city. 3 years. She had given Dominic her Thursday nights and her Sunday mornings, and that particular version of herself she only brought out when she loved someone, a little softer, a little more willing to be seen. She had learned his coffee order, and the name of the neighborhood he grew up in, and the specific way his voice changed when he was embarrassed. She had done what she always did when she loved someone. She had made herself easy to keep. The condensation on her glass made a perfect ring on the bar top. She pressed one finger into it, watched the ring disappear. She ordered a second drink. Elias Crane arrived at the rooftop bar because his shift had ended, and he could not face his apartment yet. He was 31. An emergency room doctor. He had spent the last 12 hours inside other people's worst moments, and now he needed to sit somewhere that was not a hospital, and drink something that was not coffee, and be among people who were not in crisis. The bar was almost full. There was one empty stool. It was next to a woman in a dark coat who was staring at the city like she was having an argument with it. He sat down. "Sorry," he said, before he was even fully settled. "Only seat left." She glanced at him. "It's fine." She turned back to the city. He ordered whiskey. She did not look at him again. He did not push. They sat there for 5 whole minutes without speaking, and it was, and he would think about this later, the most comfortable 5 minutes he'd had in weeks. There was nothing demanding about her silence. It didn't pull at him or ask him to fill it. It just sat there between them, calm and honest. He noticed she hadn't touched her second drink. He said nothing about it. She spoke first, eventually. She didn't plan to. "I just got broken up with." She said it the way you'd say it's raining, stating a fact about the weather. 20 minutes ago. Downstairs. He turned to look at her. "In the restaurant downstairs?" "Yes. That's terrible." It wasn't dramatic. He was very polite about it. "That might be worse." She considered that. "Yes," she said. "I think it is." He extended one hand across the bar. "Elias." She shook it. "Naomi. Do you want to talk about it, or do you want to sit here and not talk about it?" She looked at him. Most people, when someone told them they'd just been heartbroken, either crowded them with advice or backed away entirely, as if grief were contagious. He had simply offered her the choice. "I don't know yet," she said. "That's fine," he said. "I'm not going anywhere." She talked. She didn't mean to talk as much as she did. She started with Dominic, how they had met, how he was charming in the specific way that men who have never needed to try very hard tend to be charming, how she had mistaken confidence for character for longer than she should have. Then she talked about the last year, how she had felt them drifting, and had said nothing, had held herself very still, the way you hold yourself still, when something is sleeping nearby, and you don't want to wake it. Elias listened. Not the polite kind of listening, the kind where someone nods and waits for their turn. He listened the way people listen when they actually want to know. At some point, she ordered a third drink. At some point, the couples at the far end left, and they were alone at the bar with the bartender half asleep at the other end. She told him about her father. She didn't know why. It came out naturally, the way things do when it is late and someone is paying close attention. Her father, who had left when she was 9, not dramatically, just quietly, gradually, and then one day completely. She had learned from that. In the way children learn things they don't realize they're learning. She had become, without deciding to, a person who needed very little, who asked for nothing, who made herself simple to love, so that no one would ever have a reason to go. She said, "I thought being low maintenance was a quality." He tilted his head slightly. "You made yourself low maintenance so nobody would leave." He paused. "How's that working out?" She laughed. It surprised her. It was a real laugh, short and genuine, and completely without warning, and it loosened something in her chest that had been pulled tight all evening. "You're honest," she said. "You seem like someone who can handle it." "I am." She looked at her glass. "I just don't meet many people who try." The city changed colors as the night went on. That was something Naomi had always loved, the way the lights shifted after midnight, less commercial, more personal, like the city stopped performing and just existed for a while. They talked about his work, not the medical facts of it, but the weight of it, what it was like to spend your days in the middle of people's emergencies and then step outside and walk home through normal life, past people buying groceries and arguing about small things, and having no idea how close everything is, always, to falling apart. "Does it make you feel separate from people?" she asked. He thought about it honestly, which she noticed. "Sometimes. And sometimes it makes me feel very present, like I'm more aware than most people of how quickly things change, how quickly someone becomes someone else's whole story." He looked at his glass. "It makes me want to pay attention." She understood that completely. She said, "Most people don't." "Pay attention?" "Treat the people in front of them like they're worth it." She said it without self-pity, as a simple observation. "I spent 3 years being very understanding and very patient and very easy, and I still ended up sitting on a rooftop at midnight." "You're not just sitting," he said, "you're figuring something out." She looked at him. "What am I figuring out?" He was quiet for a moment. "Then did you love him? Or did you love who you were when you were trying to be what he needed?" The question arrived quietly and then spread through her like cold water. She did not answer. She looked at the city. The city continued, as it does, completely unmoved. She thought about Dominic's face when she left, the small flicker of surprise. She realized, sitting there, that what he had wanted was a scene, some evidence that she was undone by this, and that when she gave him nothing, she had somehow disappointed him, even in the act of being left. She thought about the past 3 years, and tried to find the version of herself inside them, the real one. She kept reaching for her, and coming back with a shadow. She drank the third drink. The bar was closing. They had not noticed. The bartender appeared with the gentle but firm energy of a man whose shift was over, and gently placed the check between them. Elias picked it up. Naomi reached for her wallet. "Don't," he said. "Not in the way that makes a person feel small, in the way that says it's already decided." She let him. Outside, on the sidewalk, the cold was even more serious than before. The city at 4 in the morning had a particular quality, quieter than it ever got. A blue-gray kind of honesty, the way places look when they are not being watched. She pulled her coat tighter. Elias took off his jacket. She looked at it. "I'm fine." "I know," he said. "You're always fine." She let him put it around her shoulders. They stood there for a moment on the empty sidewalk. She did not know what came next. She was not usually uncertain about next steps. She was a woman who knew where she was going, and walked there directly. But right now, she was standing in a borrowed jacket on a quiet street, at 4 in the morning, and for the first time in a very long time, she was not trying to calculate anything. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a card, his hospital ID. He flipped it over and wrote a number on the back, borrowed a pen from the empty doorway of a closed bookstore, Just slipped one out of the pen holder someone had optimistically left on the windowsill, and held the card out to her. "Not tonight," he said. "You've got enough going on tonight." She took the card. "But when you're ready, not to replace anything, not to fix anything, just dinner, with someone who thinks you're worth the attention." He looked at her steadily. "When you're ready." She looked at the card, then at him. He had good eyes, the kind that had seen difficult things, and had not hardened because of them. She didn't say anything. He didn't wait for her to. He raised one hand, and walked. She stood on the sidewalk and watched him go until he turned the corner, and was gone. She walked home alone, still wearing his jacket. She passed the restaurant. The white tablecloths were gone, lights low now, the room half dark and reset for tomorrow. She looked at the window for a moment, then she kept walking. She thought about what he'd asked her. Did you love him, or did you love who you were when you were trying? She had spent the walk home with that question, the way you carry a stone in your pocket, feeling its weight, understanding slowly that it had always been there, and you just hadn't had the right words for it. She had loved Dominic. She had. But she had loved him, she understood now, mostly through effort, through anticipation, through the quiet labor of making herself the right shape for whatever space he had available. That was not nothing, but it was also not the whole thing. Love was not supposed to be a performance you gave so consistently you forgot you were performing. She reached her building. She stood outside it for a moment, looking up. 12 floors. Her apartment on the 9th, where she had arranged everything perfectly, and kept it perfectly, and come home to its perfect silence, for 3 years, while a part of her waited for someone to notice that perfect was not the same as happy. She went inside. She set his jacket on the chair by the door. She sat on the edge of her bed, did not cry, not because she was strong, or because she was numb, but because the feeling moving through her right now was not grief. It was something more like the sensation of a window opening, sharp at first, cold, then air. She looked at the hospital ID card in her hand. His handwriting was clean and unhurried. The number, nothing else. No pressure attached to it. No expectation dressed up as generosity. She set it on the nightstand. Lay down. Slept. In the morning, the city was gray and ordinary, and going about its business. Naomi made coffee, stood at her kitchen window, watched a man on the street below walking a dog who was deeply committed to investigating a particular patch of sidewalk. The man waited without rushing it. She thought about patience, the real kind. The kind that comes not from needing something so much you'll endure anything to get it, but from simply believing that good things exist and are worth the wait. She picked up the card. She thought about a man who chose the only empty seat and then made the silence comfortable. Who asked the one question nobody had ever asked her? Who offered his jacket not because she said she was cold, but because he could see that she was? She thought, that's the whole thing, isn't it? Being seen without having to perform it. She looked at the number. She called. It rang twice. Naomi, he said, like he had expected her, like this was simply what came next. You said dinner, she said. I did. When? Tonight, if you want. She looked at her kitchen window. The man with the patient dog had gone. The sidewalk was empty. The city was quiet in the particular way it gets on cold mornings, full of small, ordinary things that are also, if you are paying attention, remarkable. Tonight, she said,